Like, yeah, I think I'm in labor. I'm like, I'm having contractions, or I'm having something that's coming back to back. I'm like, my hurt. I can't. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley K. If you didn't know, there you go. So we're gonna jump right into this video because baby girl is sleeping right here in front of me. I'm trying to hurry up and make it before she wakes up, even though I just nursed her and put it down. But y'all mothers out there, you know, okay, she doesn't feel my body heat, she goes ballistics. So yeah, I'm trying to hurry up and make this video. As you all already see, the title of the video is basically how I induce my labor. Let me go ahead and put it out there, like, I didn't like actually induce it. Well, I basically induced it myself, sort of, kind of, maybe, I don't know. I'm going to just give y'all the deets on that because, as I mentioned in previous videos, I was, my OB had basically diagnosed me with gestational hypertension. Basically, my blood pressure started rising at the end, but I wasn't showing any signs, or I didn't test for, what is it? Preeclampsia. So she just said that it was gestational, hypertension. So yeah, with that being said, they wanted me to have the baby earlier than the due date because they said if I waited to the due date, my blood pressure would probably shoot up, and they didn't want to, you know, take any risk of me having seizures and all of that during labor. So they were like, we need to get the baby out like this week, no later than that Monday of her due date week. So I was trying to do stuff on my own. You know, we'll get into it. Let me go ahead and put out there, don't mind my hair and everything that's going on right now, y'all. Y'all know what's going on. I promise I won't get on here like this all the time, looking like this from now on. I promise. I promise. I promise. It's just, I'm in the house. It's a gloomy day. It looks like it's about to storm outside. So, yeah, I didn't feel like putting on anything. I promise next video I'll probably be dolled up. So, yeah. Let's just jump right into it. I've already mentioned when I went into labor, I was 38 weeks and 6 days. As I said, they wanted me to have her, like, they were ready to induce me. They were going to induce me. My OB was going to induce me. She kept saying, you know, if she doesn't come by this time, we're going to have to induce you. And y'all, I did not want to be induced because, you know, I wanted to go natural. We'll get into that later. I'll make a separate video on that. Natural, and I heard, you know, getting a Pitocin made your contractions more stronger, and I'm like, okay, I already be in pain from just going natural, you know, now I have to deal with, you feel me, Pitocin. So I just really didn't want that, and I just did my research on being induced, and it just wasn't my way. I just really didn't want to get induced at all. So what I did was, let's jump right into it. I bought a yoga ball. So I'm like, I'm going to bounce on this ball until I can't bounce on this ball no more. I'm sorry, y'all, if I keep stopping and looking because she starts moving like she's going to wake up. But she's just trying to get comfortable. So, yeah. I keep losing my train of thought. I was trying to do everything that I could do possible naturally, so I could induce my labors. So basically, the yoga ball and everything, and I was bouncing on the yoga ball, and I was doing it like for like 2 hours a day. I would bounce on it while I'm at work. You know, I work from home. Instead of sitting in my chair, I would just bounce on the ball. I was bouncing on that ball, y'all. And then I told myself, I was like, I'm gonna start walking. I was like, I'm gonna start walking for like 30 minutes to an hour a day in the evening when I get off. I didn't even get a chance to do that because I was like, I'm gonna do that starting that weekend. Couldn't do that because she came that Thursday. So just to go ahead and let y'all know what exactly went down. When I went to the doctor, they spoke on inducing me again, and I'm like, I'm trying everything naturally to do it because I don't want to be induced. And I kept telling them, I'm like, I can't just wait until she comes. And they're like, no. Like, we don't want to take that chance. So, my doctor, I had already looked this up, Googled it, everything. You guys probably already know about it. It's a membrane sweep. It's basically when your doctor, you know, when they go in to check your cervix, They sweep the membrane, basically sweep your cervix. I guess that's what it is. And sometimes it causes you to go into labor. And they usually say you go into labor within 24 to 48 hours after getting it. So yeah. So she asked me, she was like, would you like me to do that? She was like, sometimes some OBGYNs, they just do it without the patient knowing. She was like, but you know, you want to be induced and we're telling you, you know, we don't want to take any chances of anything happening during the labor. She was like, would you like me to do it? And I'm like, is it gonna hurt? Because y'all, up to 38 weeks, I never had my cervix checked. Every time they asked me, I'm like, no. I didn't want it. Like, I really did not want my cervix checked at all. Like, because y'all, when you're pregnant, you hear so many horror stories from other women. And I come to realize that it's not always like that. Everybody is different. Everybody's pain tolerance is different, especially mine. So, but I'm going off of what people are saying, and they're like, when you get your cervix checked, it hurts. It's the most painful thing ever. Da 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 da. And I'm just like, okay, we're not getting no cervix checks. And you know, they mentioned that I could deny it. Like, I didn't have to get my cervix checked if I didn't want to. You know, it was just something if I wanted to know. So this one particular doctor visit, I'm like, I'm 38 weeks, and I'm like, you know what, I do want to know if I've started dilating, and, you know, I want to know what's going on down there, because I did start, you know, feeling a little weird when I turned 38 weeks, so I'm like, maybe something is changing, you know, maybe she deciding she gonna come early or whatever. Really not early, she was just a week early. So when I went to the doctor and they're asking, you know, would you like to get your cervix check? I'm like, yeah. And then my doctor mentioned the membrane sweeping. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, go ahead and do it or whatever. So y'all, I won't say it was painful. It was just very uncomfortable. Okay, it was very, very uncomfortable. TMI, when you get your cervix check, you know, I that wasn't too bad. It was the membrane sweep, because she had to go deeper in there to actually sweep the membrane. So that it didn't hurt. It was just very, very uncomfortable. But I didn't even know she did it. I thought she was still up there checking my cervix. Like, she was in there for, like, I'd say about a minute, probably not even that long. And when she came out and she was like, all right, she was like, we're gonna see what's gonna happen. I'm like, did you sweep the membrane? Like, because I didn't know if I was supposed to feel something different or if she was gonna come back out and then go back and sweep it. But she did it all in one. So she's like, yeah, I did it. She was like, if nothing changes, if you don't see any signs of labor or anything within 24 to 48 hours, we're gonna go ahead and schedule an induction date. I'm like, oh my. And then at this point, I'm just praying. I'm like, I hope this sends me into labor, like, because I really don't want to be induced. So she was like, you may bleed for, like, you know, she was like, well, not even may. She was like, you are going to bleed after this. She was like, it's not going to be anything heavy or anything, just a little spotting. And I'm like, okay, good thing she told me that, because I would have been called in the office like, I'm bleeding. What has my OB done to me? So come to it, I go home, I'm feeling regular. My doctor's appointment was at 9 that morning. So the rest of the day, I'm feeling regular. Like, I'm not really feeling any pain, anything different going on. Around 4 p.m. that evening, that day of, I started getting a little cramping, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm having contractions. But they weren't strong. They just felt like regular period cramps, like your period about to come on. Like, they weren't strong, they didn't hurt or anything, they weren't consistent. It was like I would feel one, and then probably like an hour later I would feel another one, and then when I'm bouncing on my ball, I would probably feel one, and then yeah, so it wasn't consistent and they didn't hurt. So I didn't pay it no mind. I'm like, I'm not gonna go into labor. Like, I was just psyching myself out. I'm like, I'm not gonna go into labor. Like, this little girl not ready. She's not coming. So I actually didn't lay down that whole day. Did I take a nap that day? I don't even remember. But at 4 o'clock, I was just at home chilling, bouncing on my ball, eating. I'm just waiting on something to happen. So yeah, I don't even think I slept, because I was just waiting on something to happen. I wanted something to happen. So I'm being active, I'm moving around. I done cleaned the house, because I'm like, maybe if I walk and move around, that'll help. I'm researching on the internet. I'm like, anybody had a successful membrane induction, whatever the case may be. I'm looking it up. What can you do along with the membrane sweep to help you go into labor? People are like, walk, 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 walk. They kept saying walk. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go walk the stairs. So in my apartment complex, we have stairs to go, you know, up to the next floor, whatever the case may be. So I'm like, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna walk the stairs for about 30 minutes. Walk up and down the stairs for like 30 minutes. Yeah, I didn't end up doing that. I just kept bouncing on my ball. I'm like, the ball is working. I'm looking up YouTube videos, how to bounce on your ball to induce like, y'all. I was trying to help it out. You know, I'm like, something's gotta happen. It gets to like 12 o'clock that night, nothing. She said 24 to 48 hours, so I still had 2 days. But for some reason, I wanted it to happen then, to know that it was going to work. I wanted it to happen then. 12 o'clock go by. It hits 12 o'clock in the morning. Nothing, y'all. Nothing's happening. I'm just like, oh, well, I guess I'll just be getting induced because this isn't working. Like, nothing has happened. I'm bleeding. Like, yeah, I was bleeding or whatever, but it's like nothing's happening. So I said around about 2 o'clock in the morning, I go to use the bathroom, and I'm having like TMI. I'm having a lot of cervical mucus going on, and it's bloody. And I guess they call this your bloody show when you're pregnant. And I'm having that, y'all. So my boyfriend, he's laying down, you know, he's chilling. I'm telling him, you know, what's going on. I might go into labor, whatever the case may be, da 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 da. And at this point, around like 2 o'clock, that's when contractions, like, I started feeling them a little more consistent, okay? I started feeling them a little more consistent. I'm like, I don't want to call into the hospital just yet, or the doctor's office, because it might just be Braxton Hicks, like, and then they tell you to time them. So I'm sitting over here, I'm like, let me start timing them. And they weren't too close together, but they started getting close, and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling it, okay? I'm feeling it. I'm definitely, y'all see the sun is coming out. I should turn the camera this way, but whatever. So yeah, around 2 o'clock, that's when I started feeling them a little bit more. You know, they weren't consistent, like 2-3 minutes apart. They were probably like 10 minutes apart. So yeah, but I went to the bathroom. My boyfriend's on the bed, and I'm telling you, he knows what's going on. So when I wipe, TMI, when I wipe and I see the blood mixed with the mucus, the cervical mucus, I'm like, with the discharge, let me say discharge. I'm like, I was like, yeah, I think it's time. As soon as I seen that, I'm like, yeah, I think it's time. And he's like, what? I'm like, I think I just lost my mucus plug. You know, men, they don't know what we talk about when we say stuff like this. But I'm like, yeah, I think I just lost it. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm finna go into labor. It's go time. It worked. But I'm Googling, and I'm looking at the little mommy post on my little apps that I got. And they're like, you know, just because you lose your mucus plug doesn't mean you're going to go into labor. It can grow back. Da, da, da. And I'm just like, oh, like everything. Every time I got my hopes up, it was just like, okay, nope, nothing. So I go back to bouncing on my ball. But at this point, it's hurting, y'all. Like, at this point, I'm in a little pain. It's not like intolerable, but I'm in pain to the point where I can't lay down. I can't stay still. I have to keep moving. So I'm on my ball 2 o'clock in the morning next to my bed. My boyfriend's, he's in the bed, and I'm like, put on a movie, put on something to distract me from what's going on right now. And so he turns on a movie and he goes to sleep, but I'm still up because he doesn't think I'm going into labor. Me, my intuition is telling me that something is about to go down. Something is about to go down. So yeah, I'm bouncing on my ball. He's asleep. I can't stay still. So I'm pacing the floor. I'm bouncing on the ball. I'm doing everything to try to, you know, not think about the pain or just to lessen the pain. So, boom. It gets to the point where I'm timing them now. And they're like a minute apart. And I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. I'm like, I think I am in labor. So I call my mom, y'all. By this time, it's like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it was like 3-4, almost 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm calling my mom. knowing she has to work. My mom goes to work at 5 in the morning. So I'm calling her, and every time I call her at this time of night, she always thinks I'm in labor. And she's like, it's time. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm in labor. I'm like, I'm having contractions, or I'm having something that's coming back to back. I'm like, Ma, it hurt. I can't I can't stay still. I can't sit down. I can't, like, it hurts. It hurts, Ma. So she's like, call the doctor. She was like, go to the hospital. She was like, where's your boyfriend? She was like, where is he at? Da 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 da. She was like, get ready to go to the hospital. She was like, I can't come down there now because I gotta go to work. She was like, I'll try to get off early so I can be there before she gets here. She was like, because you being this, pregnant, you're not gonna have her as soon as you get to the hospital. You're gonna be in labor for some time. She was like, so I can get down there before she gets here. And I'm like, okay. So at this point, I'm like, let me call my doctor's office, the after hours, to figure out what's going on. So I called them, and she's asking me, like, are they back to back? Are they, strong? She was like, how are you feeling, or whatever? And I'm telling her, I'm like, yeah. I was like, they just began to be back to back. Sorry, y'all, hold on. Sorry, I thought she was getting up. So yeah, I called my doctor, and I'm speaking with the nurse, and I'm telling her, like, they're consistent. Like, I've been timing them, and she's asking me, like, are you timing them right? She's telling me how to time, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm timing them right. Even if I'm timing them wrong, it's still like a good 2-3 minutes apart. So I'm like, what should I do? And she's like, hold off for a while. She was like, see if they get a little bit more consistent, and if they get a little bit stronger. She was like, if they do, she was like, call back, let us know, you're gonna go to the hospital, or whatever the case may be, so we can let them know that you're on the way. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, perfect, sounds good. So hang up the phone. Right after I hung up the phone, like 30 minutes later, y'all, it kicked in. Like, y'all, it hurt so bad. Like, I was on this couch, I didn't know what to do. I'm sitting on the pillows. I've got, y'all, the way I had it set up in my house before I actually left to go to the hospital, y'all would have been like, what just happened in here? Like, I had stuff everywhere because I just needed something. Like, I just needed something. So I had the ball with, like, hella covers on it, blankets. I had pillows, like, sitting up high because I was sitting on them because I could feel it in my butt, my back. Like, y'all, from my waist down, it was hurting. And it was so consistent that, y'all see how I'm moving back and forth right now? That's what I was doing. I had to keep moving. I couldn't stay still. So I went back there to my boyfriend because he's sleeping. I wake him up, and I was like, I think I'm in labor. I was like, I think I'm going in labor. He was like, have your water broke yet? I'm like, no, but that doesn't matter. I am in pain. Like, I'm in pain. I cannot lay down. I cannot do anything. You've been asleep. I've been up in pain. Like, I need to go to the hospital. He's like, try to lay down. He was like, try. I'm like, I done tried. So he, gets me in the bed, and he's like, come here. He was like, come here, let me rub your back. Let's cuddle, whatever. He was like, just calm down. He was like, your water hasn't broke yet. He was like, we don't want to go out there and just be sitting there all day because your water hasn't broken, da 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 da. So, I get where he was coming from, because he's like, there's no point to just go out there and sit there when we can just do that at home. So I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, I'm in so much pain. But I'm like, if I go to the hospital and tell them I'm in pain, the most they're gonna do, break my water and give me an epidural, if anything. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, you want to go natural, so deal with it until your water break, because that's when they tell you, when your water breaks, come to the hospital. Because we had to put that out there. I was group B strep, I think that's what it is, positive. It's common in pregnant women, whatever the case may be. Everything was perfectly fine. She came out perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine, whatever the case may be. It's common in pregnant women. So they did tell me, as soon as your water breaks, come straight to the hospital. So I'm like, all right. My water hasn't broke. I'm just in so much pain right now. Like, it's tolerable, but it hurts, y'all. Mind you, I haven't had a period in over 9 months, 10 months. So I'm not familiar with this pain right now. It's all new to me. So it's hurting, y'all. I try to lay down. It's not working. So my boyfriend, he starts rubbing my back, y'all. Soon as he get, like, right there at the bottom, like the way bottom of my back, right above my my booty crack, or whatever the case may be, yeah, my water explodes. Like, my water burst. and I knew I didn't pee. Because that wasn't a pee. It felt like a balloon was there and it just burst. Like somebody just popped my balloon. And y'all, it just burst. And I jumped up and I was like, babe, I'm like, my water just broke. And he was like, for real? And I'm like, yeah, my water just broke. We have to go. And I've been saying this for the past, I don't know how long I've been saying this, but my water just broke. Y'all, it's like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, we have to go. Like, we have to go. I'm like, I have to call the doctors. I have to call my nurse back, let her know that I'm on my way to the hospital, because I just got off the phone with her like 30 minutes ago. I'm like, I have to call her back and let her know, like, yeah, this wasn't a false alarm. I am in labor. So my water broke and I'm trying to change my clothes, and my boyfriend's like, why are you changing your clothes? And I'm like, I'm not going to the hospital with these soaking wet pants on. Like, I have soaking wet pants on. I'm changing them. So I'm changing my clothes. He's getting everything together. He's putting the bags in the car, everything, you know. Now at this point, he's on go mode. Like, he's like, come on. He's like, let's go, let's go, let's go. So I'm getting myself together. I called my mom and I'm like, yeah, my water just broke. We're on the way to the hospital. She was like, okay. Like, she's excited. She was like, okay. She was like, great. She was like, great. I'll be there. I'll try to get off early or whatever the case may be. I'm not gonna give y'all too much detail because I am gonna do my whole labor and delivery story. So I'm gonna probably cut it off right here. But yeah, that's exactly how my labor was induced, y'all. I had the membrane sweep and it worked 100% for me. 100%. I do recommend, you know, if you are a pregnant woman, or if you plan on ever getting pregnant and you have to be induced, or, you know, they tell you have to be induced, I would ask my OB, could you give me a membrane sweep? Because y'all, it worked. It sent my butt right into labor, but I didn't dilate as much as I thought I was. Like, I thought when I got to the hospital I was gonna be like 4 or 5 centimeters dilated, because that morning at the doctor's office I was only 2 centimeters dilated. I got to the hospital after my water broke and they're like, you're 3 centimeters. I'm like, really? But they say it's slower when, you know, you're having your first child or whatever the case may be. So I'm just like, all right, whatever. It is what it is. Stay tuned for part 2. Basically, part 2 will be my labor and delivery. I'll let y'all know what happened once we got to the hospital. You know, how I started feeling. Did I get the epidural? Like, what happened from there? So, y'all, stay tuned. I'm about to get off of here because I believe she's waking up. But, yeah. Membrane sweep, baby. Membrane sweep put me into labor, y'all. Put me straight into labor. It took about, what, a few hours. It didn't even take 24 hours. It took about, what, I went to the hospital at 9. The doctor's office at 9. My water broke at like 5 o'clock the next morning. So, it was almost to 24 hours, but it wasn't. It was probably about, what, 17 hours. It sent me in, y'all. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure you stay tuned for my next video. Thumbs up if you made it all the way here. If you have any questions, you know, about my pregnancy or anything in this video that I didn't answer, or, you know, you need more detail on, go ahead and drop that down below. I thank you guys so much for supporting me. I love you all so much. Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, and I promise I won't look this raggedy all the time moving forward. Thumbs up the video, subscribe, turn on your notification bell if you haven't already, and I see you guys in part 2.